Prophecy is not given to entertain curiosity, but to awaken urgency. It is not meant to be treated as a puzzle for intellectual debate or a mystery novel to keep us intrigued. It is a call to awareness, a divine alarm clock that shakes us from sleep and reminds us that time is not endless. Many people read or hear prophetic words as though they are simply fascinating predictions of what might come, forgetting that their true purpose is to stir us into action. When prophecy speaks, it is never to make us sit back comfortably with more information. It is to move us forward with greater intention. Think about how life itself works. Life rarely gives advance notice. The biggest turning points arrive without an invitation. A sudden phone call changes everything. A single decision redirects a lifetime. An unexpected moment becomes the beginning of a story you never thought you'd live. In the same way, prophecy teaches us that the future is not waiting for us to be ready. It is moving forward whether we prepare or not, and this is why urgency matters. If we wait until we feel like responding, we are already too late. Curiosity seeks entertainment. Urgency seeks transformation. Curiosity asks questions only to satisfy the mind. Urgency asks questions that stir the heart to act differently. When prophecy is taken lightly, people argue over details, dates, and speculation. But when prophecy is taken seriously, it compels us to reflect on how we are living today. It makes us ask, if events were to unfold suddenly, am I prepared in character, in faith, in discipline, and in purpose? There is a difference between being informed and being transformed. Information alone never changes a life. Transformation happens when information becomes fuel for action. Prophecy, then, is fuel. It is not to be stored on a shelf or debated in circles, but to ignite urgency in the soul. Every delay, every excuse, every "I'll do it later" loses power when urgency is awakened. Because when the final chain of events begins, it will not pause for hesitation. Life rarely gives advance notice. It is in the moments of routine and the ordinary days that preparation takes root. Waiting for the signal is too late. The signal is already here. Prophecy does not invite you to curiosity. It demands that you awaken, prepare, and move with urgency now. The turning point always feels ordinary until it changes everything. It rarely arrives with fireworks, banners, or a voice from the sky announcing that your life is about to shift. More often, it hides in the disguise of a simple choice, a casual encounter, a decision that seems small at the moment, but carries weight far beyond what you could imagine. One ordinary conversation can introduce you to a person who opens doors you never thought you'd walk through. One moment of courage, when you say yes instead of no, can redirect the entire course of your life. The turning point does not shout, it whispers, and only those who are awake enough to listen recognize it. We often wait for dramatic signs, believing that transformation has to be wrapped in something grand, but life works differently. It places seeds in the soil of the ordinary. You may not see the tree, the fruit, or the shade it will give for years to come. Yet the moment you planted the seed was the turning point. Think about how many people have missed their breakthrough because they dismissed the ordinary. They looked for big signals and ignored the subtle shifts. They believed greatness would come with an announcement, but greatness usually begins with a quiet step forward when nobody is watching. The ordinary is dangerous because it convinces us it is unimportant. Routine blinds us to the reality that within the daily, the extraordinary is hiding. A simple choice to wake up earlier, to make one call, to take care of your health, to show up when it's easier to stay home, those things seem small. Yet when you look back, you realize those were the moments that built the foundation of your future. The turning point was never about the size of the action, but the direction of the choice. And here is the challenge. You will never know the turning point while you're in it. It feels like just another day. That's why it's so vital to treat every decision, every encounter, every opportunity as if it matters, because it does. The chain reaction of your life is always in motion, and the smallest link could be the one that unlocks everything. The turning point always feels ordinary until suddenly you realize it was the day everything began to change. Delay is the most silent enemy of opportunity. It doesn't attack with noise, it doesn't confront you with force, and it doesn't announce that it's stealing from you. Instead, It creeps in quietly, disguised as comfort, disguised as waiting for the right time, disguised as "I'll do it tomorrow." And while you wait, opportunities pass by, opportunities that will never circle back in the same form. Delay whispers that you have time, but time is the one resource you never truly control. The danger of delay is that it feels harmless. Saying "not today" doesn't feel like a loss. Postponing a decision feels like wisdom, as if waiting somehow guarantees safety. But the truth is, delay kills silently. While you hesitate, someone else steps forward. While you debate, someone else decides. While you keep planning, someone else is already doing. And when you finally look back, you realize the door that was wide open is now closed. Opportunities have an expiration date, even if you can't see it written on them. They demand courage in the present, not promises in the future. The longer you delay, the heavier fear becomes. Fear feeds on hesitation. Every time you wait, the mountain looks taller, the risk looks greater, and your confidence grows weaker. Action shrinks fear, but delay multiplies it. Great lives are never built on delay, they're built on decisive moments. Every person who has achieved something meaningful has faced the same temptation to wait. They felt the same uncertainty, the same fear of failure, the same desire for perfect timing. The only difference is they acted anyway. They understood that clarity comes in motion, not in waiting. The tragedy is not that opportunities are rare, it's that they are wasted. And they are wasted not by lack of ability, not by lack of resources, but by delay. Life doesn't wait for you to be ready, it moves. The question is whether you will move with it, because while delay may feel safe in the moment, it is silently stealing the very chances that could have transformed everything. Momentum is built in moments of discomfort. It doesn't grow in the easy seasons when everything feels smooth and effortless. It grows when you choose to push forward while your mind screams to stop, when your body aches but you take one more step, when fear tells you to wait but courage tells you to act now. Discomfort is the training ground where strength is forged and progress is multiplied. Every uncomfortable choice you make, every risk, every challenge, every discipline you embrace, becomes a brick in the foundation of unstoppable momentum. Think about it, comfort keeps you still, but discomfort moves you. The gym feels uncomfortable at first, but that discomfort builds strength. The first speech you give makes your voice shake, but that discomfort builds confidence. The risk of starting something new makes your stomach churn, but that discomfort builds resilience. Without discomfort, momentum cannot exist, because comfort never forces you to grow. Most people wait until they feel ready, but readiness is a myth. If you only move when it feels easy, you will stay stuck. Momentum is not created by waiting for the perfect conditions. It is created by leaning into the resistance. The harder it feels in the moment, the greater the push forward once you choose to persist. Discomfort is not the enemy, it is the evidence that you are stretching beyond your limits into new ground. The greatest danger is confusing discomfort with failure. Discomfort does not mean you are breaking down, it means you are breaking through. Every time you embrace it, you build a rhythm that carries you further than motivation alone ever could. Motivation fades, comfort deceives, but momentum, once built through repeated choices in discomfort, becomes self-sustaining. This is why so many breakthroughs happen just after the hardest battles. People quit when the discomfort is strongest, not realizing that momentum was about to tip in their favor. The struggle you face today may feel unbearable, but it is the exact weight that will strengthen you tomorrow. Momentum does not ask for ease, it asks for endurance, and once you've built it, you realize that every uncomfortable step was not a barrier but a gateway to the life you were meant to live. Small choices stack into irreversible outcomes. They rarely look powerful in the moment. Saying yes to 5 more minutes of sleep, skipping a single workout, ignoring one uncomfortable conversation, or telling yourself just this once seems harmless. But those small decisions don't exist in isolation. They pile up, link by link, until they form the chain that defines your future. No single drop of water sinks the ship, but enough drops over time will. No single spark burns a forest, but repeated sparks left unchecked create destruction. The same is true in the other direction. Choosing to read one page a day, saving a little money consistently, speaking with honesty even when it feels hard, or showing up when you'd rather stay home, these two stack. Over weeks and months, they build a momentum that becomes irreversible. Success is rarely the result of one massive decision. It is the result of hundreds of quiet choices that accumulate into an identity, into habits, into results that cannot easily be undone. The danger lies in underestimating the small. We think only the big moments shape destiny, so we let the little ones slide. But it is the daily choices, the seemingly unimportant ones, that build the framework of a life. One day you look back and realize the health you lost wasn't from one bad meal, but years of neglect. The relationship that broke wasn't from one argument, but from countless unspoken words. The opportunities that vanished weren't from one refusal, but from repeated hesitation. Small choices silently decide your direction long before big decisions arrive. And here's the truth: once enough choices stack, they lock into outcomes that are nearly impossible to reverse. Habits harden, consequences deepen, momentum takes on a life of its own. That is both the danger and the opportunity. The danger is that neglect compounds into regret. The opportunity is that discipline compounds into freedom. What feels minor today is never just minor. It is the seed of tomorrow's harvest. Every choice you make, no matter how small, is either stacking into regret or stacking into reward. And one day, without warning, you'll discover which one you've been building all along. People don't fall behind in one day. They fall behind by ignoring small shifts daily. Falling behind doesn't look dramatic at first. It doesn't come with alarms or flashing lights. It happens quietly, almost invisibly, in the small decisions we convince ourselves don't matter. Skipping one workout feels harmless. Putting off one important call feels minor. Ignoring that uneasy feeling in a relationship feels easier than addressing it. But when those small shifts are ignored again and again, they accumulate into a gap so wide it feels impossible to cross. Progress and decline both happen by inches. A person who is thriving isn't thriving because of one extraordinary leap. They are thriving because they chose to respond to small shifts before they became large problems. In the same way, the person who feels stuck didn't arrive there in one day. It was the product of hundreds of overlooked moments, each one stacking on top of the last until momentum reversed direction. The human tendency is to notice only extremes. We call something a crisis when it's obvious and unavoidable, but the truth is the crisis began long before. A health scare doesn't start with the diagnosis. It starts with years of small neglect. A broken relationship doesn't collapse in one fight. It fractures through dozens of unresolved tensions. A lost opportunity doesn't vanish overnight. It fades because of repeated hesitation. The collapse looks sudden, but it was built slowly through the daily decision to look away. That is why awareness matters so much. The small shifts are easy to dismiss but powerful when addressed. Choosing to act early, to correct a course when it's only slightly off, is far easier than trying to repair the damage once it has grown. The people who rise are not those who avoid difficulty altogether. They are the ones who notice the drift before it becomes a downfall. Every day brings micro decisions: to engage or to ignore, to grow or to stay still, to invest or to procrastinate. Each one tilts the scale. Falling behind is never about one bad day. It is about repeatedly letting the small shifts slide. And rising higher is never about one perfect day. It is about refusing to ignore those same shifts and choosing instead to act on them. Over time, those daily responses decide whether you're slowly drifting backward or steadily moving forward. Waiting for perfect timing is the fastest way to miss timing altogether. The idea of the perfect moment is one of the greatest illusions we cling to because it promises safety without risk, clarity without confusion, and opportunity without discomfort. But life doesn't work that way. There will never be a moment when everything aligns, when the fear disappears, when the resources feel enough, and when the road looks completely clear. Those who wait for perfection end up standing still, watching chances pass by while convincing themselves that their moment simply hasn't arrived yet. The truth is, timing doesn't become perfect until you step into it. Action is what shapes opportunity, not the other way around. That business idea doesn't become real because you kept planning. It becomes real because you started building. That conversation doesn't heal a relationship because you kept waiting. It heals because you finally spoke. That dream doesn't move forward because you waited until you felt ready. It moves because you took a shaky first step. Perfection isn't the prerequisite. It's the product of consistent motion. What most people call waiting for the right time is really fear wearing a mask. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of loss, and so waiting feels safer than risking. But the cost of waiting is far greater than the cost of trying. Opportunities are living things, they expire. They shift, they move on, they open for someone else who is willing to take action in imperfection. While you hesitate, someone else acts, and the window closes. Every turning point in history, every breakthrough in someone's life, came not because the moment was perfect, but because someone dared to act in imperfection. They acted with incomplete information, with trembling hands, with doubts still in their mind. And in doing so, they discovered what those who waited never will, that progress is born in movement, not in waiting. If you wait for perfect timing, you will still be waiting when the opportunity has already passed. If you act in imperfect timing, you will be learning, adjusting, and building momentum while others remain stuck in hesitation. The fastest way to miss timing altogether is to wait for the moment that will never come. The fastest way to create timing is to move right now with what you have where you are and let action make the moment right. Preparation is the invisible edge that separates winners from the rest. On the surface, success often looks like luck, timing, or talent. We see someone step into an opportunity and think they just got lucky. We watch someone deliver under pressure and assume they were born with natural ability. What we don't see is the preparation, the hours of practice, the unseen discipline, the sacrifices made long before the spotlight appeared. Preparation is the quiet work in the background that turns ordinary people into extraordinary performers when the moment arrives. The difference between those who rise and those who stumble is rarely intelligence or potential. It's readiness. Life throws opportunities without warning, and when the door suddenly opens, the unprepared hesitate while the prepared step through. It's not that they didn't feel fear, it's that their preparation gave them confidence to act anyway. Winners aren't braver than the rest, but they've rehearsed enough in private that when the public test comes, they execute without crumbling. The invisible nature of preparation makes it easy to dismiss. Nobody claps for the late night study sessions, the early morning workouts, or the quiet hours spent practicing alone. Nobody celebrates the sacrifices, the consistency, or the countless small decisions to stay disciplined. But when the crucial moment comes, preparation reveals itself instantly. It shows up in calm under pressure, in skill that looks effortless, in the ability to adapt when others panic. That's when the invisible becomes undeniable. Those who rely on talent alone eventually get exposed, because talent without preparation has a ceiling. But those who prepare, even if they begin with less natural ability, will often surpass those who don't. Preparation sharpens skill, builds resilience, and creates momentum that talent alone can never sustain. It is the edge that can't be faked, borrowed, or bought. It has to be earned through consistent effort. The danger is that most people only prepare when the stakes are obvious. They wait until the opportunity appears to start getting ready. But by then, it's too late. Preparation is what you do before anyone is watching, before the opportunity is visible, before the pressure arrives. The winners are already prepared long before the moment shows up. That's why when life tests you without warning, the outcome doesn't depend on what you hope for. It depends on whether you've done the unseen work that gives you the invisible edge. The hardest chains to break are the ones we pretend don't exist. It's easy to point at obvious struggles and admit they're holding us back. We acknowledge the job we dislike, the toxic habit we need to stop, or the relationship that drains us. Those chains, while heavy, can eventually be addressed because at least we see them. But the chains we deny, the ones we bury under excuses, distractions, or false confidence, are the ones that hold us the tightest. Denial is powerful because it creates the illusion of freedom. We tell ourselves we're fine, that we're in control, that we can stop anytime. But deep down, we know there are patterns that keep repeating, fears that keep dictating, and habits that keep sabotaging progress. By pretending those chains aren't real, we allow them to grow stronger. They quietly shape our decisions, limit our courage, and rob us of opportunities we don't even realize we're missing. The truth is, pretending doesn't break chains, it reinforces them. Every time we look away, we give the chain permission to stay. Every excuse we make becomes another lock on the shackle, and over time, the invisible chains become so normal that we stop questioning them altogether. We live inside limits we never challenge, convinced that's just the way life is. Freedom begins not with strength, but with honesty. The moment you name the chain, you weaken it. The moment you stop pretending, you take back power. Acknowledging the existence of fear, insecurity, procrastination, or addiction doesn't make you weaker. It makes you dangerous to the very thing that's been holding you back, because you cannot fight what you refuse to face, and you cannot change what you will not admit. Breaking chains isn't about one dramatic act of willpower. It's about consistent courage to confront reality. It's about shining light where you've kept shadows. It's about choosing discomfort over denial, because denial feels safer in the moment, but costs everything in the long run. The hardest chains to break are the ones we pretend don't exist, not because they are unbreakable, but because we've given them strength through silence. The moment you stop pretending, the process of breaking free finally begins. What you choose in private will echo in public. The world may not see the late night decisions, the quiet habits, or the secret compromises you make, but eventually they show up in who you become. Character is not built on a stage, it is built in silence. Discipline is not forged under the applause of others, it is forged in the lonely hours when no one is watching. Every private choice is like a seed planted in the soil of your future, and whether you want it or not, the harvest will always be revealed in public. This is why integrity matters so deeply. When your private world and your public image don't align, life will eventually expose the gap. People often try to manage perception, to look successful, confident, or put together on the outside while neglecting the truth of their inner lives. But the echoes always come. The words you speak in anger behind closed doors shape the tone of your relationships. The shortcuts you take when no one notices determine whether your success can last. The promises you break in private weaken the trust you depend on in public. The reverse is also true. The quiet disciplines, the unseen sacrifices, the consistent choices to do what is right rather than what is easy, those too will echo. They will show up in resilience when pressure comes, in wisdom when leadership is needed, in trust when people look to you for guidance. The public victories that inspire others are always the result of private battles already won. The temptation is to believe that private choices can be hidden forever, but nothing stays hidden. What you feed in secret grows until it demands to be seen. If you nurture fear, doubt, or compromise, it will eventually spill into your actions. If you cultivate strength, clarity, and courage in the unseen hours, it will eventually radiate through everything you do. Every day you are building an echo. The question is whether that echo will amplify regret or integrity, weakness or strength, collapse or resilience. What you choose in private is never just about that moment. It is about the inevitable sound that will resound in public, shaping how the world experiences you and how you ultimately experience yourself. Urgency sharpens clarity. When time feels unlimited, it's easy to drift, to overthink, to postpone decisions until later. We convince ourselves there will always be another chance, another day, another window of opportunity. But the moment urgency arrives, when the clock is ticking, when the deadline looms, when the opportunity is slipping, suddenly the fog clears. The things that once felt complicated become simple, because urgency forces you to separate what truly matters from what doesn't. Think about it. When you know you only have a few minutes to act, your mind stops entertaining endless options. You don't waste energy debating trivialities. You focus on the essential. When you realize time is short, distractions fall away. Urgency is like a lens that brings the blurred parts of life into focus. It doesn't create importance, it reveals it. The problem is, most people live as if time is abundant. They allow indecision to rule, they entertain distractions, they put off their dreams until tomorrow. But tomorrow is never guaranteed, and waiting for urgency to strike is dangerous, because by the time it comes, the window may already be closing. That's why some of the most decisive and impactful people don't wait for urgency to be imposed on them. They create urgency for themselves. They live as though time is short even when it feels long, and in doing so, they act with sharper clarity than most. Urgency also strips away fear. When a burning building is collapsing, you don't pause to worry about how you look running out the door. You just run. When urgency is real, hesitation dies. The same applies to life goals, to relationships, to opportunities. Fear thrives when we think we have endless time to entertain it, but urgency forces fear into the background and clarity into the foreground. Clarity is not always found in more information. It's found in a greater sense of urgency. The truth is, life has already given us enough warnings to act. The ticking clock is real whether we acknowledge it or not. Urgency is the gift that removes the illusion of later and demands that we choose now. And in that pressure, vision sharpens, choices simplify, and the path forward becomes undeniable. Fear grows in hesitation, but shrinks in action. The longer you stand still, staring at the thing that intimidates you, the larger it becomes in your mind. What begins as a small concern multiplies into a monster the more you delay. Hesitation gives fear oxygen. It feeds on your doubts, your questions, and your endless what-ifs. The moment you pause too long, your imagination paints the worst possible outcomes, and soon the fear feels bigger than your ability to face it. But action starves fear. The second you move, even in the smallest way, fear begins to lose its grip. It doesn't disappear all at once, but it shrinks because now you are proving to yourself that movement is possible. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the decision to act while fear is still present. Every step you take in the direction of what you fear is like pulling bricks out of a wall. Slowly the wall crumbles, and what once felt impossible becomes manageable. Hesitation convinces you that waiting will make things easier, but it does the opposite. Waiting strengthens fear, while doing weakens it. That difficult conversation doesn't get lighter the longer you avoid it. It gets heavier. That leap of faith doesn't feel safer the longer you stall. It feels more terrifying. Fear grows roots in stillness, but it has no soil in motion. Some of the greatest breakthroughs happen not because fear vanished, but because someone chose to move through it. Think about every accomplishment you've ever achieved. At the start, there was fear, but you moved anyway, and with each action, the fear diminished until it no longer had power over you. That is the cycle. Hesitation multiplies fear. Action dismantles it. The truth is, fear will never announce that it's leaving. You don't wait for it to go before you act. You act, and in the process, it goes. Every moment you hesitate, fear is growing. Every moment you act, fear is shrinking. The choice is simple. Feed fear with delay, or starve it with action. Every ending is just the start of the next chain. What feels like finality is rarely the end of the story. It is the opening of a new one. We often grieve endings as if they close every door, forgetting that endings are the soil where beginnings take root. The job that ends creates space for a new career path you never imagined. The relationship that closes teaches lessons that prepare you for deeper love. The season that feels finished opens your eyes to the possibilities of the next. Endings are not the death of momentum, they are the transfer of it. The challenge is that endings rarely feel hopeful in the moment. They sting, they disrupt our sense of stability. They make us feel like the ground has been pulled from beneath us. But if you look closely at your life, you'll notice that the moments you thought were devastating endings were often the catalysts for growth, change, and opportunity. What felt like loss was actually a transition into a different chain of events, one that could not have begun without the closing of the previous one. Every chain is connected. The end of one link naturally leads to the start of another. What you carry into that new chain, wisdom, resilience, strength, or bitterness and regret, depends on how you interpret the ending. If you see it only as loss, you may get stuck staring at a closed door. But if you choose to see it as transition, you'll notice another door is already opening. Life is built on cycles, growth and decay, building and releasing, starting and finishing. When you understand that endings are not a betrayal but a design, you stop clinging so desperately to what is over and start preparing for what is next. Endings become less about mourning and more about momentum. The truth is, nothing really ends, it transforms. The experiences, the lessons, the strength gained, they all become part of the next chapter. The chain doesn't break, it shifts direction. Every ending you face is simply the beginning of the next chain, waiting for you to step forward and continue the story. Life doesn't reward the one who's ready later, it rewards the one who's ready now. Later is the language of procrastination, the comfortable lie we tell ourselves to avoid discomfort today. We think we'll be braver tomorrow, stronger tomorrow, more prepared tomorrow. But tomorrow doesn't hand out opportunities. It simply magnifies what you chose to do today. The doors that open in life rarely wait for you to be perfectly prepared. They open in a moment, and only those who are ready now can walk through them. Think about how many people miss their moment because they were waiting for the right time. The truth is, the right time doesn't exist. Conditions are never perfect. You'll never feel 100% certain, fully confident, or absolutely prepared. Those who rise aren't the ones who had everything figured out in advance. They're the ones who acted anyway. Readiness is not about having it all. It's about using what you already have. The danger of being ready later is that later never arrives. Later becomes next week, next month, next year. Later is a graveyard where dreams are buried. The world doesn't pause until you feel comfortable. Opportunities don't freeze in place while you build the courage you keep postponing. They move on to someone else who is willing to act now. Being ready now doesn't mean reckless action. It means choosing to start with what you've got. It means showing up before you feel fully qualified. It means trusting that growth happens in motion, not in waiting. The moment you take action, you create momentum. The moment you hesitate, you lose it. Life rewards decisiveness. It rewards courage in the present, not the promise of courage in the future. The people who succeed are not always the smartest or the most talented. They're the ones who decided that today was enough. They didn't wait for a perfect plan. They trusted that action would reveal the plan. If you keep waiting to be ready later, you'll spend your life watching others live the opportunities you were meant for. If you choose to be ready now, even with imperfect steps, life will reward you with growth, with progress, and with chances that never come to those who wait. The final chain of events won't ask if you're prepared. It will simply begin. Life does not send reminders or issue polite warnings before the moment everything shifts. It doesn't pause to check if you've studied enough, saved enough, healed enough, or gathered the courage you've been postponing. When the chain begins, it moves quickly, relentlessly, and without hesitation. And in that moment, the only thing that matters is whether your preparation has already been done. This is why urgency matters. You don't get to negotiate with time. You don't get to bargain with opportunity. The chain of events that will define your future is not waiting for your readiness. It is waiting for its appointed moment. And when it arrives, hesitation will not save you, excuses will not protect you, and promises of later will not hold it back. What will carry you through is the discipline you built when nothing felt urgent, the strength you practiced in ordinary days, the courage you developed long before fear tried to paralyze you. The danger is that most people live as if there will always be more time. They imagine they will prepare when they see the signs, that they'll rise to the occasion once the moment is clear. But life doesn't work that way. You cannot prepare in the middle of the storm. You cannot build strength in the middle of the battle. Preparation is not something you do when the chain begins. It is something you must already have done before it starts. Every small choice today is rehearsal for that moment. The disciplines that feel unnecessary now, the sacrifices that feel invisible, the boundaries that feel hard to keep, these are the things that will decide whether you collapse or conquer when the chain starts moving. The final chain of events will not check in with your comfort. It will simply unfold. And when it does, the difference between those who rise and those who fall will not be talent, luck, or chance. It will be the unseen preparation they chose to make before the moment arrived.